So we're going to create a little creature in Gravity Sketch. As with most designs with Gravity Sketch, you can start with a sketch on a layer ready to lay out your design. But before we do that, we'll add some images. So if you take, depending on whether you're left or right-handed, I'm left-handed, so this is my dominant hand, and this is my hand with all the tools on it. So I'm going to press the button with the blue button that shows where reference images are. If you come down here, just by clicking here, you'll see whatever images you've got loaded. They're in your Gravity Sketch folder. So I'm going to, this one's flickering for some reason, so I probably won't use this one. So I'm using the red button on that hand to get rid of it. And we'll just put one image over here, and this will be the image that I will probably use the most in the design. So it's a basic shape for the rhino beetle. And now what I want to do is go back to the blue button again, and we'll use the settings button, and we'll put mirror on, and that will do us for now. So basically now whatever I draw gives us a mirrored, as you can see, mirrored over the x-axis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this layer, and I'll put myself right in the middle of it here. I'm going to use this layer to sketch out the shape, and I'm using this tool, which is just the basic ink tool. In fact, you could use the ink or the stroke, but I like this because it looks more sketchy. And I'm using, on this drawing hand, I'm just going to go with a light grey. So now I can just sketch. And all this layer's for is a reference layer. So this is just going to allow me to draw some shapes out, and I'm going to make it semi-transparent. I'm not sticking 100% to the design because I want to make it a little bit more, well, a bit more of my own design rather than the completely real creature. So I'm just drawing out roughly the shape here, and you can see you can line it up like so. To move around, it's the inner grips or the grips, or the grip on your non-drawing hand or your non-dominant hand. And then that moves, basically you can twist it around. You can lock the axis vertically if you want, if you're doing cars, but I like to keep it fluid like this. I'm going to need some eyes there, a basic head there. Again, this is not in any way going to be used other than for reference. So I'm not trying to use this for modeling. I'm not trying to use it for, there's nothing in here that will actually be used other than to tell me where something goes. So I can really do whatever. I could scribble as much as I want, really. It doesn't, you know, as long as it's giving me an indication. Or I could do a lot less lines than this if I feel like I don't need them. And that seems to give me enough of a body, so I'm fine with that. And just quickly check it against this. There you go. And there'll be a few things sticking out here. And then we've got all of the limbs, all 6 limbs are going to come out of here. So there'll be this one here, coming out here, and then turns here and goes down. You can put a floor on if you wish, if that helps you with your design, but I don't mind just using this as a line here. I'm going to have spikes down here. That's the first leg, second leg, see how rough it is. I'm not trying to do anything other than to give myself an idea of where things are going. If I need to change anything, just pick it up, just push and pull with the thumb on the drawing hand, and just if it surrounds the area, then you can just, with the grip, you can just move it around. And you can even, if you want to, you can even use that and fire again, and you can do a copy like so. So that means you can repeat the models that you've got. If you want to size a piece, just basically grab the inner grips like so, and they will give you the ability to pull open and close, and that will give you the size. There you can see now we've already blocked out what we need. If anything wasn't working, now we could pick those up and move them, but we're quite happy with that, I think, overall. So we'll just change it a little bit here like so, and we can go ahead and use that now straight away. So that would be quite useful as it is at the moment. What you can do at this point is you can take photos. So for the tutorial, what I'd want to do is, let's just get the right area. On the main menu here we have a camera, and as you can see, that allows me to take photographs as I'm going along. You can adjust the field of view there to get the right view. So I'm going to take some photographs that you'll see in the tutorial, and all that's done is it's clicked and that's saved that image out. Or if you want, you can do add quad sketch and watch what happens here, and that now gives me an image here of what I'm working on. So I can actually put that over here and keep that as an image to be used in the reference if that's something you want. And that's saved in your reference images as well. So that's fine, that's working really well, and all the way along you'll see me jump into that and switching that on and then taking a photograph, just to show basically how I'm progressing through. So how do we now use that? So go back to the blue button, go to the layer button, we just move it over here so we can do a nice and clear, and in here you've got lots of layers, and the layer that I'm on here, I can just pull this down and make it semi-transparent like so. So you can almost not see it at all. And then I'm going to lock that layer. You can name it, but we're only going to use a couple of layers. And then we're going to click the next one. And this is the one here that we're going to use. And we're going to model onto this next one now. And this is where the core of the modeling is going to be done. So let's go back to our tools. And now we go straight into polygon modeling. So this is where your sub-D model comes from. And over here you've got subdivision object. It says beta here, but it's out to the real world now. Don't worry about these yet. We'll have a look at those later on. So we'll just click down anywhere in the scene, and that gives me two spheres like so. If I then click the blue button, it then gives me all the subdivision objects. And if I want to keep that panel out in any way, I could just put that over here. One mistake I did make, incidentally, as you can see there, is I had the reference image on the layer that we've made transparent, so I've actually lost that. So you can either go back and put that on a separate layer, or if needed, you can just pick out the ones that you want again on this layer. And again, I could put them on another layer, but we'll probably just delete them. But we'll just have them there at the side. We'll have a slightly different one there as well as the one I was going to have when we were starting. So it gives us a better look at the feet there. Okay, so back to this object, and let's make it a subdivision object again. So I'll bring it close to the center line, like so. Click the blue button, and now we've got subdivision levels on and off, so I could subdivide and make them smooth, make them low poly, and I can mirror them, which they are. And at the moment, that's absolutely exactly how I'd want it. So we can turn that off for the moment, and then if you were to just pull these objects, these points to the center, they snap like so, and you can see a little lock sign there, and that means that is now snapped to that center line. So it's quite useful, because that means that we know now that we're going to have a seam down the center. So it really means that we're not going to do, you know, too much damage to anything non-symmetrically. So I'm just literally going to start by pulling things around into the basic shape of see the reference underneath. So I'm going to try and just emulate the bottom of that shape in a very rough way. If you don't like the color at this point, you can just grab the model and we can go, let's make it a browny color, just to match what the beetle looks like so. And then back in, grab it again, blue button gives us back where we were. So we've got different modes now. To get the modes, we flick with our thumbstick. You'll see, bring this up here so you can really see what I'm doing. And with my thumbstick here, if I flick across, you can see it changing. And what that is giving me is face, point, and object mode. So point mode, edge mode, face mode. I think that's like a whole mode. And obviously, depending on what we want to do, that we're going to have to be in different modes. So basically, I'm going to start with edge mode here, and I'm going to just hover over, see the circle at the front, hover over, and when I click, that gives me a split. Now if I go to point mode now, that's given me a split loop all the way through the middle. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to undo that for a moment, but that's how we would add a loop. But before we add that loop, I'm going to add some more polygons with a normal, what we call an extrusion. So I'm going to go back to face mode. Let's get onto the correct mode. And then if you grab the face you want and fire, you can then move around, and I'm using the grip buttons, and the grip buttons are being used for the scale. And as I fire, that then extrudes it one more. I've done it one too many there actually. So let go. So I'm just being careful, I'm only extruding once. There we go. And now back to point mode and just tweak it around until I'm in the place that I want. So we're going to do a bit more of that. So I'm looking at my reference underneath and I'm making sure that I'm matching it. Now I can add more splits now, and that'll give me a more rounded look. But obviously it's still very blocky. So how does Subdivision work to prevent this blockiness? Well, that's the core of this feature. So if we were to go one Subdivision level, you can see now that's the control cage, and the low poly is underneath driving the higher poly. And that's more of what it's going to look like when it's finished. So that's what you should be aiming for, is keep it as low poly as you can, and then try and match it this way while it's subdivided. So be prepared to turn this on and off, or up and down, like so. I usually just turn it on and off. So let's carry on a little bit. So from here now we can add some splits now. So in fact, let's just do this bottom bit here. So I'm going to do one more here, make it smaller, and I'm turning it as I fire, and that will be our face area. We're going to do separate eyes, so that will be all done separately in a moment, and then come up here like so. But let me just see if we should be having, we're going to use this one, aren't we? So they probably would want to come up from here. So take this one again now, again move it, scale it with the grips, move it, there we go. It's going to split here. So rather than splitting here, what I'll do is I'll run a split. I'll put a split here, and that's run a split all the way through, and you can see that's given us a much more rounded look without even going to Subdivision. So that is one way of doing it. And we'd also want a split this way, and you'll see why now, because that gives us the ability to round it much more here. The loops matter. If you're not a polygon modeler and you see me do this, just be mindful. You don't want to go crazy and put too many loops into a model. It very easily becomes unmanageable if you do that. So one of the rules that you should be looking towards is, how do I minimize the amount of loops I put in it? And that's by doing what I'm doing here, which is being careful with the use of the amount of loops that you put in. So that's that one, and then we'll do the same with this one. Okay. See, I'm keeping going from the different, going back into to the different modes. You see, I'm making that slightly circular there. Around here like that, and then if we need it, we can add a loop in there and a loop in there. Let's just see what that looks like. There you go. So that's not too far off what we want. You can see how unmanageable this would become if you're not careful. So just be really careful how you're adding stuff. Now on here we might want to tighten this down. Now we could do it point by point, but it takes way too long. You can see I've accidentally added a loop there. Now it's not a huge problem because I can use it, but that's something you've got to be mindful of. So I could easily go back and undo it, but I would probably have put that split in anyway. So I'll just unpick that a little bit. It's a little bit like what we call UV unwrapping, which is done in, you know, it's basically used to be very time consuming way of adding textures to a model. We still do it, but obviously it's quite antiquated the way we do it now. So I'm just moving these around. I'm beginning to think I probably should have gone back and undone it rather than doing it this way, but it's only taken a few seconds extra, so it's not a huge problem. And again, it's not something that has caused us a problem as such. It's just that that's an easy mistake to make where you add in too many loops. Now, what I was about to show you is I want to tighten this down or smooth it. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but the easy one that I'll show you just for now is by pushing your thumbstick forward, make the area that you want be selected, and then literally hold with your grip and then pull down on the thumbstick, and you'll see the area that I'm doing is just tightening down. Careful you don't go over onto another area, and that's in programs like Maya. That would be called an average vertices command, or it's like smoothing in ZBrush if you use the shift key. It's very common in most programs now, one way or another. And there you can see we've got the shape of the head coming together nicely now, just making sure that the curves are in a good place. Might be a little bit too big overall at this front end, so we could take it all and shrink it down like so, but we can make some of those decisions later on even. Let's just see how we feel about it. Yeah, like that might be better, and then maybe just a bit closer together, and then one more tighten, and there we go. We've got it looking how we would want it. Maybe this just needs to be tightened down a bit, and I'm just doing refinements here before I move on. See there where that loop's come right the way through, so we did have a bit more corrective modelling to do. I might put one more loop there and one more loop there, and then just tighten those down a little bit. And that's all working quite well now. Across here, I want to put a loop in really tight, and I'll show you why I want to do that. So I'm going to put it in there, and then here I'm just going to tuck this one underneath. What that's doing is, because I'm so close and it's rounding it, that's giving me a creased area, or almost a creased area, and that gives me that. I can add more loops if needed, and that's giving me this sort of look here, which means the eye will go in here. So, and I can even add another split there to make it even more harsh, like so. Let's just add in some eyes so we've got them in. So I'm just going to put basic spheres in. I'm not even going to use subdivision models here, or I don't need subdivision models. Just did them too close together then. So I'm just adding in spheres. I can subdivide these later. I quite like the faceted look, and that just gives me a placement like that, like so. And then there is going to be this little, like an antennae at the front, so we could go back. There's several different ways, so we can go back into this model. We could add more detail here, but I'm conscious that we're just trying to make the shape with this tutorial, so I don't want to get too complex. So what I'll probably do is, in fact, there are lots of different ways to do this in Gravity Sketch. You can go back and do this if it's something that you quite like, which is the older tools. You can just use a volume tool, do it on a planar with points. Let's just see, I'll put the plane in front of us so as you can see what I'm doing. Just make this bigger, and I'll just I'm clicking with points now, and this is just going to give me a shape to work with. You'll see what I'm doing in a moment, like so. And that just gives me a shape to work with, and I can convert that later on to polygons. I can even edit it now if I like to make it fatter and thinner. It's not as rounded as I would like compared to the other bits that we're doing in this, but it will do for now to be used as a starting point. We can actually use that geometry, and I'll probably, for the tutorial, I'll probably keep that in to show you what happens when you convert that. So I'm quite happy with that as a basic shape. So what we'll do is let's have a quick look. Looking good, and we'll now go back to our polygon model, our subdivision model. Actually, I've done a sphere there and I didn't mean to. Let's go back again, look in here, and we just want a sphere, and we want it to be sub D, like so. And we're basically doing the back of it this time, so we'll start in the middle. It's got the symmetry on it again, or it will have in a second. Once you get to that center line, it basically snaps to the middle and it deletes the inner face, which is perfect. It's exactly what we want. Just making the rough shape. Don't want to subdivide yet. Just following my outline. And take the face, extrude it in. Take the face again and extrude it in. There we go. It's not actually on line, is it? So let's just line it back up. There we go. Just picked it up and lined it back up. The symmetry is across the model, not across the world, so just be aware of that. I'm going to bring this right down now to match the reference. Almost there. And we'll put a bit of the splits, once we get into the splits, we'll define some of the this edge here at the back. So I just want to make sure we've got it going the right way first of all. Make it really tiny, but without snapping it like so. And we'll just smooth that down. And then maybe add a split here. And well, from that, I'm quite happy to go ahead and just pop on subdivision so I can see, and now I can bring it how I want it. Bearing in mind what the reference looks like, so we'll pull that forward a little bit. And now we'll add some more splits because we need more here. So I'm going to do a split here like so. And that's fine. Look at it from above. Make sure we're looking at it from all these angles, because you could easily lose track of it from the different angles. That looks fine. Put it back a bit there. And then maybe just add some splits in here, because on the back of the beetle I want him to look as if the casing is splitting on the back. We could even do another one in there like so, just to give us a little bit of a dip. And one here, because I want this line to have a tighter line coming around the edge. I don't want to push that line up to it, but it's close enough. See how it's close under here, so it's giving us that tighten effect there. Just bring the hole down a little bit. There we go. So I'm quite happy with that one. And I don't think I need anything else there. So now on to the legs. So we're going to probably try and do these two the same, and we'll do one separate one here, and try and make it all in one piece, this front one really. So what do we need? So we need another subdivision object, mirrors on, but we're not going to go across the seam this time. So we're going to have two separate limbs. We're going to have one here, going to intrude right into the body, so we know there's not going to be any problems. And then I'm just going to extrude out like crazy, so you'll see what I mean in a moment. We just used a normal sphere then, didn't we? So it wasn't a subdivision model. So make sure it's on the cube, and then subdivision model. And then just to check that it's definitely a subdivision model, there you go. If you get those points, then you know it is. It's not a NURBS based model. So pop it in there. Again, it's a cube, but don't worry about that. So I'm looking at the different references and trying to match what I'm seeing on the reference to some degree anyway. So you're moving the points, literally just grabbing the inner grip and just moving the points around. Remember you've got two spheres in your hand here. They do two different things, so just be mindful of that. And I've got no split this way because what I want to do is make the whole thing this way. And then I'll go back and do that. So let's make sure this is turning nicely because it's going to come down now. There's going to be in here, I'm going to do a small one, extrude it out one. Let me show you that again. So I've done it once. And this is going to give me the little joint. Just pull the face back, do it again. And then that's the one I'm going to turn down, like so. And hopefully you'll see what I mean in a moment. So this here has given me this kind of tight joint here. You can hear my chair creaking as I move around. It's quite funny. And then from here, I'm just going to go all the way down here in one big go. And then same again here. And same again here. And that means I've got it finished, at least like the layout, so I can see if I've done it how I want to do it. And it's not too far off. I'll take that for now. And now we can go in and add some more of those details. So here we would want more of a joint, and add it there as well, so I can pull it out here like this. Make this smaller so you can see what I'm doing. And then here I'm going to do, I want 1, 2, 3 spikes down here, so I'm going to put a split, 1, 2, 3, and that means I've got this one, I've got this one, you can see I'm grabbing those faces, I've got this one, like so, and they will become the spikes, as you'll see any second now. This one, just using basic extrusion, like so. We lost the subdivision then by mistake. So make them nice and tiny on the spike. The smaller you make it, the tighter that spike will be. And then we'll split it right near the end. And you'll see what happens there. Now what we didn't do is add a split this way. So I'm going to do one split that way. And then just that allows us to give us a bit of volume. And I'm going to do this here so I can just tighten this down. Like so. And then rather than doing what I did on the other side, I'm going to do this. So coming off the side for the claw, or I don't actually know the anatomical term for an insect's claw there. That's gone all the way around there, so I now need to split that way. There we go. And I'll just put one more that way, and then we'll just take this and smooth it down. again, I'm still only using the basic smooth here. I'll go through the next one in a moment once we get the shape locked out. So let's have a look at it in Sub D, see what it looks like. So one subdivision level, and you can see there we've got quite a nice looking, it's still manageable because we can still move it around, and if we want to change points we can grab them. It gets a little bit unmanageable. I think that's going to need improving later down the line, and there's different ways to see this, but if you keep doing it as I've done it and keep swapping it back out, then you won't have too much problem understanding where you're at with that. So that's, once we put some volume back, that gives us pretty much what we want there. So now, next leg, I'm going to do exactly the same again, and we're going to duplicate that, and that'll give us the basic reference really. What you can do as well is we can change these textures a little bit. So we've just used the basic one. You can go to a sketch and tune, so that's quite nice. You can go to reflective, which is definitely nice. If you think of this up here, and reflective, it gives you a nice beetle shine. That can be quite nice. You've also got flat material, and you've got the basic material. So we'll leave this on. We'll leave it on basic for now. Okay, so on to the next leg. Let's just take some, as I said I was going to do, let's take some photographs. Need to make sure we're taking lots of reference photographs as we go along with this. That one was one of the ones we did with quad draw on, so and we'll also get one of just the leg on its own. Taking some nice photos there. You'll see those in the tutorials I get. So now we'll move that leg out of the way actually for now, while I just do this other leg. And before I do that, one thing that I will do, and I should have insisted on this, is we'll save the sketch. So just basically back to the main menu, clear it, and then we want it spelt right. Rhino Beetle 001. And say boom. So now at least we've got the saved, and I'll let you have those models as well in case you want to use those. So next one, another cube, exactly the same process as the previous leg. In fact, what you can do is you could just take that previous leg and you could just tweak it around. That would work perfectly well. But let's do one more just to make sure we know exactly how we're doing this. Okay, so exactly as we did before. Let's just do it a bit quicker this time, so less talking and more just doing it. You'll see exactly the same process but much faster this time. So rather than doing it slowly as I did it, I've just quickly bashed out the shape and then gone in and edited it from added the loops afterwards rather than just taking my time and explaining it. So you can see it's much quicker than I was showing you on the initial stages. There we go. And these have got some kind of ridges on them, but I'm not going to focus too much on that because I just want to focus on the core modeling for you in the tutorial. So obviously you can go in a lot more in a lot more detail. If you want to take your time and add the the exact detail there. So let's bring this down, and then we'll put a split this way and a split this way. And I think that'll do me actually for this one. I don't want to go too much in detail, and we'll just check it as we said. So check it with Subdivision. So here we go. On. What does it look like? Yeah, quite good. Just tighten some of these things down a little bit. Give me some more, maybe a few more edge loops would tighten it down. That would be fine. It's a very, very fast way to Subdivision model. I've been modeling for oh my gosh, close on 30 years now. 91 I started, so obviously being able to do this in VR is like, it was science fiction back then. But it hasn't really changed that much. The rules are still the same, with the addition of obviously Subdivision modeling, which is what I'm showing you today. But the core isn't that much different. So let's put that leg back now. So that works well. Just highlights the fact that I do really need to split that across, because it just looks odd now because of the other one. Now I'm actually, you can see here, I'm modeling with the Subdivision on, which is slightly different because it looks like it's sculpted straight away, which is quite nice. There you go. And that leg, I'm simply going to duplicate it. So that's just a case of picking it up and firing with it, and you can see that can be quite useful for repeats. And there we have it. That's, I mean, very quickly. In fact, what are these guys doing over here? Let's just clean this scene up a little bit. We can turn that mirroring off now for a moment. So we can just have a look at the scene and quickly turn off this layer completely. And there you go. Let's have a look at the beetle as he stands. And we'll do what we said. We'll take some more photographs with him in situ. Let's move him back a little bit. Just have him hovering over the ground. And you can see how close we were with very, very few minutes work really. And that's the core of it. Now to get him out and do something with him, what can we do? So at the moment we've just saved the sketch, haven't we? So if we go back to that menu, and I'm going to say, let's make a Rhino 2. So we've got the sketch saved as a final. And now what we'll do is, everything is all of the Subdivision modeling is switched on. So if we turn that off, let's pick all these models up and turn it off on all of them. And that's just making sure that what we get out is going to be a fully low polygon model. Now we can't switch it off on that because that was a spline based model and the eyes weren't subdivided at all. But that's the low poly. You can see how incredibly low it is. Now at that point what we can do is go here and we can do an export. So to export it, we want to say, you can leave most of these things the same for your first few times, but you can either do, if you want the polygons out, either do OBJ or FBX. So let's use OBJ, and I'm saving it locally. I won't change any of this. We do want single-sided, and we'll just send it out. So Rhino Beetle, like so, and that's just saved it for us in the same folder. You can see there's my images still there. So that's how we would do it. I'll show a couple of renders of it in another program, and have a go at that and post your results.